Okay, I have again done a naughty switch, so I had probably advertised this session as mega projects, but as I had multiple requests from group work having issues with reviews, actually a lot of, maybe some, no, I'm not sure, actually potentially the teams are not even here, so but I wanted to talk a little bit about control, monitoring, quality as well, and what are the mechanisms? How can we actually measure that we are on track, right? That we are achieving our project success as what we are aspiring to. Yeah. So, and in the seminar session, we have a look critically at what project control mechanisms we are using for our group assessment. Have we used anything? Yeah. How do we actually know that we are on target, if you want, or achieve our goals? Yeah. So today we look at control and steering. I say here steering. I have taken that out because in the UK literature this has disappeared. Whilst it's very popular still in German-speaking area, or as well, I don't know why, but in Russian-speaking area as well, very popular steering. And then the last part is kind of handover, closeout, and both actually. Particularly the handover and closeout is something done that is, particularly in the project area, something worth changing to a better theorem. But I'll show you what's going on and where we can maybe find as well some aspiration for later. Suggested reading as usual. So again, here I would recommend papers. They are quite short papers, but they kind of show a little bit the issues to do with handing over, preparation for commissioning as well, and post-project reviews as a key management competence, and how to use them afterwards for future projects. Yeah? So this is maybe quite interesting. And Harvey Mailer, we have a little bit more structured content, but again, here's 4 very short chapters, which shows you as well that this is something that is not too well researched actually. Or you go into behavioral theorems. Okay. Now, what is project control and steering actually about? And I start here off with a word of warning. I love deadlines. I particularly like that whooshing noise that they make when they go flying by. Yeah. So, and this is a joke from Douglas Adams. Does anybody know Douglas Adams? He's not really a scholar. What is he renowned for?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, he's an author, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He wrote as well books about nature documentaries, and he had to actually plan a lot of the join us. A lot of the expeditions himself, and he noticed that whenever they put plans in this in place, he has actually a talk about it in TED, if you want to see it. That all his plans of doing these expeditions never were met. So they planned all their travels, and basically it went all sideways. And in his TED talk, he actually explains it, and he was quite impressed that they still got it done nonetheless. Yeah? So there's certainly an issue. Another kind of fun way to look at control and steering comes from faulty. Well, actually, I read it out first. There's Sir Richards, who is basically a representative at the Foreign Office, and they are in a crisis. Yeah, so this is the kind of context. And Sir Richards basically says, standard Foreign Office response on a time of crisis in a stage 1, we say nothing is going to happen. Yeah? And this is already important in perspective. Then Sir Humphrey jumps in, stage 2. We say something may be going to happen, but we should do nothing about it. And then Sir Richards goes to stage 3. Stage 3, we say that maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do. And then stage 4, we say maybe there's something we could have done, but it's too late now. Yeah, this is elite procrastination. Yeah, so this is of course how it's not done, but there's maybe a hidden dilemma already in controlling a plan. Yeah, so when things don't go according to plan or turn sour, that is basically when we have to act. Yeah, and often leading to this wonderful thing. First of all, recognizing when something goes sour. So how is it going? Yeah, this is normally the question. What is the standard answer if you get asked something like this in the project?
It's going well.
All going well, yeah? Exactly. Well, and what is the answer over the coffee to your fellow project manager? Like, when you talk to your fellow project manager over coffee, what is the answer? How's it going?
Oh dear.
Oh dear, we are behind deadline. Yeah, so okay. You know the kind of connotation. So what am I actually referring here to? What is the issue here? Why do we not answer as well to maybe our project sponsor or to our company manager? Like actually it's not going well. The time has slipped. Why do we change the answer to how is it going? What is the dimension?
Because you want to create an impression that everything is alright.
Yeah. So there's an impression. Yeah. So but why would you want to impress your manager?
Not losing the project or not being taken off the project or something like that.
Yeah, so there's the kind of responsibility, yeah, and kind of the hierarchical notion, yeah, that you want to make a good impression because this may come back to you in the overall impression when it comes to the promotion, yeah. Yeah, other dynamics? What may be a hidden barrier here? Why do we answer different to our fellow project manager than to maybe external or client or project sponsor?
You don't want to come across like a loser.
Yeah, so there's a pride issue as well, yeah? But you're admitting it to your project manager, right? So in a way, what do you think?
Well, I think it's in hierarchy.
Yeah, hierarchy, and what is the consequence associated with it?
So your boss can find your fellow project manager trying to squat. So
Yes.
you're not inclined to lie to him, or you're inclined to come up as a very competent person to your boss.
Yeah. Okay, so there you have actually named already possibly three things. Yeah. Yes. First of all, you want to come across as well competent. Yeah. So there's maybe a self-driven argument. It's like I'm able to be the manager of this and I can do this. Although we are behind, so he doesn't have to know of the turbulences in between. But second of all, what is most likely in a company like that as well an issue? So you said already that the level communicating up, that they may be perceived that they even want to take the project off you, yeah? So what is the role actually of a program director, for example, or if you have a project management office of the project director? What is the role for them?
Let them scrutinize your delivery
Yeah.
and performance.
Yeah, scrutinize. Yeah, so this is maybe what happens in your organization. Yeah, but arguably the program director, or as well if you have a senior staff, should be fully aware of it, right? He should be supporting you. Yeah, but experience may have already told you otherwise. Yeah, last time when you asked for support, you may have been told like, maybe you are not quite ready yet to do the project. Yeah, which shows that there's a different dynamic going on. Yeah, but arguably it's a behavior that is quite common. We have laughed about this. Yeah, and it's still evident in practice. But how is it going? This is normally something where you should take the answer very serious, particularly with your project organization that is involved, right? Okay, so important to notice there may be political dynamics in this, yeah, and as well different answers depending on who you are speaking to, yeah. Okay, what is the project control about? Well, it's focus on the characteristics that require control. With this as well, I haven't actually split it that way. This goes as well along the project life cycle. Yeah, this is literally at the initiation. You are refining more and more the characteristics that you're actually looking out for. Yeah. There's a strong influence from strategy by defining what to control and selection of devices that assist the control process in the do-it stage. Yeah, so this is implementation, sometimes with procurement strategies or feasibility studies. We may even recognize ways of planning that we prefer, and what to measure there. Then the objective is to maximize visibility of the progress and performance measures. In some cases, we even play around with productivity theorems. Yeah, but this is already very detailed, so normally it's just performance, and I'll break it down in a second. And be careful, whilst total control has been widely promoted in the project management literature, often as well perceived as very deterministic, the reality is that it isn't simple nor necessarily always desirable. And if you want to understand the total control argument, have a look at Douglas Adams' video of the expedition, what he wanted to control and how local transport may differ, and for good reason. So that sometimes linearity of planning certain control can be dangerous as well if it's not actually your competence area. And here we have already the indicators. Okay. So what do we actually review and want feedback on, or what are we actually starting controlling? There is often an element of human resource being tried to control, and I've already put here people. So the traditional old theorem that you will find whenever you hammer project control in the literature, I have it here. It's man, machines, materials, money. This is a theorem that you will see repeatedly. It's largely because the PMI had it for a very long time as a professional body kind of categories. So more recently we have kind of refined it, and I break it actually more down. Now other control mechanisms that we have go along the notions of space, time, tasks that are actually being carried out, and quality and technical performance. And again, keep in mind, we had earlier on that often quality is not so much a term necessarily dominating our sales pitches anymore. It's more, is a customer going to buy it, and can he actually use it? So there may be something about user friendliness in this too. But again, you could argue that it's actually technical performance. Okay, so what are the inputs? So we can see it as well as a model, where control is actually confined. So the inputs are kind of time, duration, then money, when are we going to pay, how much does an activity actually cost, how much in return do we actually get in value added to our product or service, and what resources do we actually need. So this can be aggregate, pre-existing materials, actually I'll break it further down in a second, but as well the material usage itself, and with this as well the specifications of how to use it. So if you use materials that have specifications because they are very small or poisoning or something like that, then you have additional requirements that kind of require you to take precautions or preparations. Then the tasks themselves and quality and technical performance again. So this is kind of what we have. Output is kind of the progress. So you see kind of the time performance versus actual completion of the subparts. Then the costs again. Job starts, then jobs completion. So this is a benchmark, so you can use it as a visualization tool, which is a happy moment for the team. Jobs started versus jobs completed. So when they're live, you kind of highlight this is the jobs that we are working on, and then you can show as well when they're completed. So it gives a feeling of achievement. And then again, with engineering and design changes, you may look for that as well. So this comes through different elements, but I'll show you the processes in a second. And then you may have as well outputs, variation order, so there may be multiple options of progressing. In other logs, you may see that as well as change or plan A, B, C, but I hope I can show you this in a second. So when do we actually do a project control theorem? And I have a system. Oh, PowerPoint didn't like that, which is fair enough. when do we actually plan, or when do we actually jump into a control theorem? So I haven't given you the process yet, so you have to be with me on this. So we really start thinking about control in the pre-planning phase, when you're evaluating what work packages are delivered and what are the intersections to other activities. Yeah, so at pre-planned decision points, you want to kind of set milestones where you can see if you actually achieve, if you think of quality, maybe your quality criteria, or in terms of completion, have you actually delivered it in time and according to the costs that were specified? Yeah, and is it still creating the value, for example, or the benefits that the client actually wants out of it? Yeah, so you may have built something and you notice that it's out of time because fashion has moved on. Yeah, so this can happen too, and then you can evaluate it at this point. Yeah. There's another kind of theorem that kind of argues you should do it as soon as possible, which can be often creating a little bit an emphasis of over control, so be sensitive with it. There's a notion as well of continuously controlling and updating basically the plans and again controlling for adjustments from the initial change and the new plan. Yeah? And it should be as well logically in a sequence logically, yeah, that you actually adjust the kind of control patterns for the other aspects. Yeah? It's like doing an assignment in math. You may have miscalculated the first part of the formula, but the rest of the calculation is correct. Yeah, of course, you want as a student then points for the rest of the calculations. So similar in your project plan, if you're in progress and one team member or one contractor fell behind with their package, yeah, but the rest actually sticks to the duration, then they are of course on time, although your plan overall is behind, right? But punishing everybody else now for the delay of the first contractor is quite a harsh approach. You know? So hence logically. And you should as well adjust at task completion. So this may generate as well float where you can actually get, again, logically a faster delivery than initially planned. And so if it's a critical element, you want to as well kind of have time actually to react to what's happening. Yeah? So this is particular with more expensive or more critical technical parts. You may want to have a forerun, or if you're piloting as well, you want to maybe have a pre-run so that you can still change it before the actual critical event happens, right? And very important, at the end of the project as well. Yeah? So to actually see where you arrived. So how do we actually do this? And this is really where control is kind of summarized. So we have now actually really smart streaming devices where we can easily measure if we hit performance. But for you to kind of become like a project manager that actually achieves success as well with stakeholders, this is still the priority, the favored medium. It's basically through dialogue, meetings with the clients, parties involved in the project, so maybe contractors, suppliers. If you have contractors that have subcontractors that may not perform, maybe even meeting with them, yeah, with the contractor in combination. Otherwise, our kind of tools or agenda setting devices are schedules, for example. So update as well communication tools. Maybe even using earned value analysis. So do I have that in this? I have another talk where I kind of go a little bit into the detailed tools. I upload that as well additionally, which I do for undergraduate students, where I can show you a little bit how this is actually applied. But earned value analysis has as well kind of the possibility to go actually back to your client and see if you're still on track with achieving the value, yeah, in the different stages of delivery, which is very powerful. Calculate potentially as well critical ratios. So this is maybe delivery points when you want to assemble something, or if you have a wonderful event like the Olympics, you may not want to complete on the last day when the Olympics start, or this depends again how it's set up. Then milestones is one, so we had that already. So recognizing kind of packages when you can see a certain aspect of completion or when a work package has been completed. Yeah. Then as well reports. So this can go as well to independent agencies actually looking in how well you have done. Tests, inspections that kind of come in hand with the reports normally, and delivery or staggered delivery. So there's as well different delivery tools that we can use. So here we had already kind of package delivery versus kind of linear delivery of a project. Yeah? And then last but not least, and this is a main focus nowadays, it's of course the relevant project management info system or information systems. And here the importance is on updating. Now again, you will see that particular in today's project environment, we often don't just have one system here, we have multiple, where we kind of probably even enter the same information repeatedly in, unless you have a very information science-oriented project office. So this means often that you have a potentially Excel spreadsheet for interactive software, maybe from the client. Then for finance with your banking, you may have a different reporting system, which means that there's a duplication of information. So be aware that if you have something like that, this is probably one of the least important considered tasks, although it is actually very important to you as a project manager, and as well probably for steering with your client, actually a very useful tool. But be aware that information are only as accurate as the last input point, right? So that there's a certain hindrance with that. Okay. So with control, this is kind of the tools that we have been given. How can we actually process-wise look into this? Well, we had already kind of monitoring and control. So we had the plan, do, act, what was it? Yeah, we had already control mechanisms kind of on planning activities, but here I really want to simplify it a little bit. So here we have just a feedback process. So really just looking for deviations. So where are we not according to the plan, or where are expectations not met? So for that we need to monitor. This involves very simple measurement and performance analysis. And then once you detect something and you recognize, hey, we are actually out of the plot, you basically go to controlling. So you have kind of actions, maybe revised plan, cash flow schedules. Sometimes it's a process. We have actually an interesting element in the project environment. If you work with NEC contracts or engineering contracts, they often just specify a process. So control action is sit together with the client and think about how you want to take actions forward. So there's actually a clause like that, for example, as an action there. But traditionally, we have actions even kind of pre-set. So if you work closely with the client and you're not running according to the time schedule, but you're achieving your quality, and you see there's a trade-off like, oh, if we just push a little bit on and lower the quality a little bit, then we are still on time. But this is not really your decision, but you have a client that you're talking to. Then the action is maybe quickly show the options that you have to your client for decision making, and then revise plan accordingly. So they may go for a trade-off and say like, you know what, I really care about the quality baseline, so put more people on it, and if it takes a little bit longer, it's okay. Then there may be increased cash associated with it in a longer time. So you would revise cash flow and schedules accordingly. And then you have the corrected deviation, and you can again monitor for other changes. Okay, so what is the process? Well, given it's a project kickoff, you're really just tracking against what is preset, right? Whatever is in the plan. That can be based on bidding out, so the documents of the workflow that your different parties suggest. So a project is off track is when you actually start looking. So here monitoring indicates that project is behind the time schedule and or project has exceeded budget. So here those are already the typical lines. Quality of materials or finished work is below standard. and or productivity is lower than planned. So something like that is really bad. For example, quality of materials arriving, for example, on your assembly line is not the right quality, so you are just looking at it, but you're planning to build it in the next shift maybe, yeah, then you have a huge dilemma. So if you want the right quality, you may have to send it all back, yeah, and then of course by definition you will then be behind time schedule because you have no material to build in potentially, right? So it's a very simple knock-on effect. So basically what you would do is you would make sure that the delivered materials is actually early enough there to actually send it back and request like exchange. So in some contracts we even ask for like, well, what is the English term? So it's basically a holdback material, so that they have to have one proportion of the material exchange ready to go, basically. In particular, if quality and time is critical. Yeah, but again, this is comes often at a higher price. And then last but not least here, as well as an example, was the productivity is lower than planned. So you are actually not getting on as quickly as you want because your workflow has like one element that is maybe slower or not the right quality, so you have changes that you have to adjust with. So once you actually recognize something like that, the project management answer, and this is the American style, so this is the 4 M's, yeah. They say like, okay, let's go in with our project control and embrace a process to actually get our project back on track or adjust accordingly. Yeah, and here we literally have the 4 M's. So this is money, man. So I suppose this is a construction worker with a hammer. Actually, I'm not sure. This could be as well advanced manufacturing in all planes. Yeah. And then we have here a beautiful aggregate track. Yeah, this is the machine, and then the aggregate itself, so the materials that you actually use. Yeah, so this is the idea. So they broke it as well beautifully down in that way. And you can see that so manpower not so much as our project and design team, but more as a construction or building team. Yeah, so that is actually quite interesting in the initial literature. But again, here they kind of say this is a playground which you can leverage to stay on time. Yeah? So money, okay, we are short of money, then we may run it slower. So you manage your resources more carefully and try to achieve with if you want same resources, same manpower, same materials, the same thing, but may run behind time, yeah, something like that. Manpower, yeah, so if a task run behind, you can put more people on it or work extra shifts. Yeah, then with materials, materials can be bought in if they are not the right quality, and machine and equipment similar. Yeah, so it's maybe to do with maintenance, lower running times. This is a typical variable that we can actually control for. So mechanisms and elements of the project control. So adjust resources, adjust the project characteristic, size and scope. So again, this is quite mechanistic how that's described in the project management literature. So here, adjust when you look at the resources is capacities, capabilities or competencies. So if you look at the man side, this would mean you may bring another team in. Yeah, so I don't know if you have ever looked at a project assembly from a plane. Yeah, if you want, there are beautiful documentaries of a time elapsed video. Yeah, so have a look. Eurofighter assembled in 1 minute. Yeah, on YouTube you will see it, and you can see that if they are falling behind with orders, they actually don't very often because it's a very trimmed operation in the first place. But they actually bring other teams in that actually designed it as well, and they are better in assembling it quicker. Yeah? So they have basically more understanding about the components. So you will see there's a lot of carbon fiber and advanced materials that are combined, and this is an advantage if you have more understanding, not so much if you have done it repeatedly. Yeah? In other places it's competency, so you may want to consider training resource or people to actually bring them up to the right standard. It can be as well leadership, team and supply chain. support. So leadership can go either way. With too fatiguing leadership style, if you're very shouty, very pushy, you can actually fatigue your team. So your performance goes actually down, maybe initially up, but if you keep going it and you have no break for the team, it has a negative impact. Similar material, quantity, quality need. So if it's not going so well, your quantity may actually go up because you break parts, so you need replacement stuff. It's very intuitional stuff. And then equipment fit for purpose, quantity as well. Newer equipment normally at the beginning is more accurate, but again, this is generalization that are not always true. And as well with financial reward, scale, and release, you can normally as well create certain adjustments. Now, when we come to adjust the project itself, it's about reduce project size, reduce project scope, terminate project potentially. So we have as well playground here. So what do I mean by that? Oh no, wait. First the output as well. I forgot the output. So the project brought back on track after we have interfered with it. So what was the project control successful? How can we tell? So yeah, well, the answer is how can we tell? This was a tricky. So was the project control? So if we are adjusting something, how can we tell if it's successful? Do we just adjust the plan quickly and then it's like according to plan again? I think some project managers secretly hope so, but how do we know if we are back on plan and if we're actually successful with the control?
Monitor the output.
Yeah, monitor the output or go a stage further, yeah, ask the client if we are still on track. Yeah, so you look really at the benefits that you're delivering and the success criteria. Do we still hit those? Yeah. And if not, you may have to go back to your mechanism of changing, right? So this is quite mechanistic, and the linear algorithm or the logical decision tree goes even further. So this is a traditional theorem. So how can we tell when project control is actually needed? So well, we have some general clues, and some come from old literature. So you will always feel like I'm stepping back in time. So nowadays we would probably be a lot more refined on that. And then we have specific clues that are kind of still a good indicator. And you can already see here we are looking at performance and often quality, and then maybe cost, time, and then with specific clues, more primitive indicators, and then alternative or other indicators. So what do I mean by that? So if we go forward, let's start with the general clues. So here, particular in performance. So here, if you find unexpected technical problems arise or things that have been delivered don't work with each other. Yeah? Insufficient resources are unavailable when needed. Separate insufficient resources. It's either sufficient resources are unavailable or insufficient resources are available when needed. Yeah, okay, this is a double negative. Okay, I have to delete that. Actually, I have to have a look if Meredith and Mantle actually wrote this. Yeah, but anyway, then the quality or reliability problems occur, or owner-client requires changes in technical specifications. So this is particularly bad, right? If this comes later in the project, you start building, you may actually have to take things down. So often, if you get something like that, really bring a stop to what is going on, because you may be actually able to kind of retrieve resources that are still in the process of being built in. Then you have as well interfunctional complications and conflicts arise. So this is particular teams trying to set agendas. Yeah, my favorite one, we had here a challenge recently where we built a beautiful infrastructure project for Singapore. And this is the BIM Academy. And my favorite part was that there was a design team for balconies. And they were the quickest. So they built all the balconies, not yet knowing what they were actually putting the balconies towards, which had implications for everybody else. So this meant that the drainage guys had to work around the balconies. And somebody was asking, hey, why are there so many details already from the balcony guys? And it turns out they were just the quickest. Yeah? So BIM had a new dimension. So normally you do the balconies actually at the later point when you kind of have thought systematically where you want stuff. or where it maybe fits as well aesthetically. So here, sometimes when you come to interfunctional complications with new models like building information modeling, so this is a information model where everybody can kind of work at the same time on, if it's enabled that way. They had actually conflicts in the agenda setting. Hence the conflicts. So then we had as well market changes that increase or decrease project value. Again, here, wonderful example. I nearly got into trouble with my Pro-Vice Chancellor for international. I don't know if you have noticed, for international students, this is probably good news. Currencies like Singapore have gone up 30% against the British pound. Now, this is very bad for me if I travel to Singapore, because it means that my budget has just been compromised by 30%, right? So this is as simple as that. But it turns out, because our partners are actually paying for it, we just phoned them up to transfer the Singapore dollar to us. And they did. So in the end, I got a lot more money. And they were all baffled how I managed this. So in reality, they hadn't yet transferred the money. So we didn't actually have currency issues. So we still had the same amount of money actually. So there are small things like that, where it works happily. In other cases, this would have been a real killer for my budget and for my joint ventures. So there I would have had a lot of trouble. So in reality, if you work in international markets, you have to work with the kind of fluctuations, right? So you kind of enable it risk-wise, and you put spare budget against it, which may be kind of used for certain projects. This is dangerous to sit at the project level. Sometimes it does. In big projects, you set it against the project level, because then this is seen as well as a speculation tool. So you will see that people suddenly start booking because the currency is gone. It's not gone, but basically fluctuates. And it creates completely different dynamics in how materials arrive. So there are often other elements that come with it. So be aware. This is risky at the project level. Normally this sits at the organization level. Because this is as well where the capacity in finance maybe sits more designated, if you want, or more risk averse. Then we have the costs, and I mentioned the already costs before, but so this may be technical difficulties that require more resources, or actually just a new price. So we had that some time ago. Steel prices went at the moment, like if you do ships with like are they called in English rare sands? So there's a price increase at the moment with other materials. If you use anything raw oil based, is actually slightly cheaper at the moment. But again, this has often cost implications. Scope of work may increase. So if something was actually underrated, you thought you can use a standard part, right, versus a bespoke part that actually fits your system or the service that you're trying to do. Bid amount accepted for contract is too low. And you will see that in mega projects, most mega projects don't fly if you are not showing that this is the cheapest package ever possible, which means that the bidding amounts are often probably at the amount where it's really not possible anymore to do it for that amount. So be aware that there is a certain fluctuation. In some projects, we even go in with 20% safety if you have an extremely low price against that. Then reporting of the monitoring results are poor or late. So again, maybe the system isn't updated. Maybe there's an intention behind it, because people feel like, I can bring it back on track. We work on Saturday morning as well, nobody will notice, and then we are back on track. And then suddenly everybody asks for pay. Then you have additional costs maybe. And another one is the project budgeting for contractor cash flows not done right. So maybe you pay up front and they deliver something that you didn't actually consider finished, but they consider it finished. So how do you then negotiate with them? Hopefully you have a good relationship. If it's a one-off contract for them, they may run off. So then you are in trouble. This works as well the other way around. As a main contractor, you may not get paid in time, and they kind of say like, we are processing your payment. What do? Do you sue straight away for it and may not work with them anymore or get a reputation? So there's an interesting kind of tension point that often arises around cost. And then changes in market prices or of the inputs. Yeah, so I named a few examples there already. So here again, if you're relying on international supply chains with different currencies, basically manage for it. Yeah. Another one was time. Here you have technical difficulties, require more time to solve. So this is actually quite common. Scope of work increases, unexpected utilities needed, relocation. So if you work with any big machines or concealed environments, this can really kind of have a knock-on effect if you are just working with one capacity, right? So respectively as well, kind of the preparation time to maybe get it up and running again, right? So there may be knock-on effect. Then task sequencing not done right. So you may, well, as I mentioned, so maybe one thing is delivered late, everybody turns up, but they have only time to work on your particular line for maybe 8 hours, then they go home. This is very nice if your material arrives 4 hours late, then you have 4 hours of their work time, of course. Yeah, and maybe the follow-up task can't be done before it's completed. Yeah, then it knocks on the whole line, of course. Yeah. Required material, labor, equipment unavailable when needed. Yeah, it's again how powerful is your project actually in kind of binding your project team and supply chain around you. And key presenting tasks were not completed on time. So again, that was the example that I said. Yeah, so you have a critical path that you may want to follow certain activities onwards with, and it turns out that the first task or work package is not completed, right? So what do you do then? Now, with specific clues, this is primitive indicators. So this is quite simple dashboard idea, and I've kind of taken here from the paper the simplest format. So normally you would make that a lot more specific to your particular case. So you can kind of measure very simply what is planned versus actual, and here you can see things are going not so well. If the actual is a lot above the planned, then this is maybe a bad indicator, but we have to be more specific. So here the primitive indicators, more resources or less resources have been used than planned. So if you have avoidance aims, so be careful. In sustainability, so is this always good or bad? If you are higher than planned, so you have spent more money than what you wanted, is this good? Yeah. So it depends really, but so with the money, most people will be like, no, this is not good. But if you work for the tax office, yeah, like then you're like, yeah, this is actually not too bad. So I shouldn't really say that in generalizing terms, but in research grants, for example, we get penalized if we don't spend our budget, and overspending up to 20% for higher outputs is actually rewarded. So that's a very strange incentive. But there you go. Yeah. Total man hours actually again higher than low. So it could be like if you have avoidance patterns, right? So waste minimization. So you may plan for saving up to 50,000 cubic meter of water in your stuff, and you have actually saved more. Thumbs up, right? So then it's actually the reverse. So just be aware, if you set up a dashboard like this, don't just list them all. Yeah. So make sure that it's as well logical, that you see actually where you have avoidance targets and price yourself with not. So actually a little bit creepy ones from construction is not having killed people. Yeah. So they have the zero. So I've seen that repeatedly on sites, which freaks me a little bit out. But still, this is maybe a measure where you want to distinguish it from equipment hours and total man hours, yeah, because there's a different logic behind it, right? Okay, so how do we? Yeah, and again, I had the kind of positive version, yeah, where the heart of the project manager goes up. Again, I have to warn here, I've seen that more recently. In academia, we do strange things where we plan activities and they are essential to achieve something. And then we kind of start the project, and then some people start questioning the activities. And so if you allocate costs for doing something to achieve a certain benefit quality, don't compromise the activities by not giving money or something like that. This is a very dangerous thing to do. And of course, then it's very hard to achieve the quality, actually, right? So, okay, sorry, I forgot the point. So, more resources or less resources have been used than planned, so this may be desirable. So in a commercial company, we would see like, yes, cost savings, yes, we have less hours spent. And then normally people still want to be paid though, so there's maybe another notion. And here, concrete use tons, again, planned versus actual. So this is actually just concerning for me, thinking back of my material science time. If the concrete, if you have actually measured it very accurately, and you have something like 9 cubic meters of concrete left, this means they are missing somewhere in the building. So in my mind, this is very, very scary. But again, here it's actually seen as something that is not so problematic. So yeah, and here's another example. So this is kind of how you can work with schedules and Gantt charts again to kind of keep on track where your actual timeline goes. So you may have knock-on effects, or if you have a critical path of activities, you can see how your deadline is actually moving. So you may have a chance to work with it, but this is how you could actually visualize it and be aware of it. Yeah. So again, here the point being, so here we are over time, right? So we kind of expect it to finish earlier. So if this is now a critical event and there's another activity waiting for this to be completed, it pushes the whole planned schedule on, right? So this is the idea. Okay, so more specific, if we take longer, so how can we actually monitor against it? So there's as well the cost implication, cost of activity or of the project today is higher than expected. So how do we measure for this? I have actually an example of the linear mapping on the next page, but so you may have a program schedule, and then you have the progress as actual, and if you plot that against time and maybe well, whatever your currency is that you are evaluating here, so progress maybe, then this is where you would arrive. So those specific, the primitive clues, as you saw, they are reporting tools, but they work in both directions. They can be misleading, so they have a little bit of political dimension. So this depends really how you're measuring and how you're reporting. And as a project manager, you will see certain activities you can decide that they're kind of completed if their completion doesn't have a knock-on effect on the other activities. So that's a certain gray field, and often this is as well described as biased. So it's a gender setting tool really what you're focusing on measuring here. Do not consider that progress may be overestimated or underestimated due to execution of scheduled work done or execution of more work or low value and less work of high value. So this is exactly what it comes to. So in the schedule you just see the work progress, you don't see if the quality is achieved. So there's potentially an arbitrary element to this, right? So this is basically the criticism of the primitive control mechanisms. Now with specific clues, this is again a more deterministic view. So this is do I actually want to go? So this is one way of actually monitoring your costing. And to be honest, although it's specific here in this, it is actually still quite primitive. So I would recommend to treat tools like this with a certain care. So here you can see kind of resource flow variance, and you can see schedule variance because you're basically mapping for both. Yeah, and with this you have a little bit better informed clues. But again, it's arbitrary, so you can't actually see if this is still the same. So once you start slipping, you may have a different working pattern where you can make up against for it. Particularly if you have teams that are designated to certain work packages. They may actually work overtime for the same price. So again, it depends here how you're measuring this. Okay, this is the formulas when you should pay attention to it, which is basically if it runs overtime, you should have a look at it. And if the return of the investment goes bigger than 1, which is 100%, then you're overspending. But again, you have that here, so there's a paper to it to actually talk you through it. Now, when we come to the resources for project control and the 4 M's, so this was money, you should not consider it a direct resource, rather used to influence the amounts or quality of other resources. Machinery, the equipment, often used to augment labor in order to speed up the project, can be as well expensive, particularly if you need new equipment. May involve renting or purchasing. So depending on your pricing strategies, there are different options. If you're renting, you may have guarantees as well from the company that you're renting from. If you're purchasing, it's your own responsibility. You may have a guarantee with a new product. So those are things that you want to consider. Purchasing sometimes means that you get a new equipment a few years breaks within the guarantee time. Yeah? So this can be actually so tempting if it's a very expensive one that you can reuse, that it makes financially a lot of sense to do that. Yeah? But you may change here your capacity remit. The materials and suppliers, an increase in quality or quantity may be necessary to enhance the project control. So what do I mean by that? This means as well that you may actually start measuring for certain performance criteria. So if you think about maybe a concrete, so traditionally you just look for the strength in a concrete, but you may want to have a concrete that is weather resistant against like salt water, or can withstand kind of pressing acidic environments. Yeah, because you don't want to have like certain materials inside. So then you have to increase the envelope. It's very much the same with all the other materials. So you can go basically beyond the specs. It could be as well just the colors. Yeah? So I did as well. We had ceramic tiles for aerospace that should be green. It had to do something with the sun radiation. But they had a specific green, so it wasn't just green. It was very simplified. But nonetheless, so this was as well increased quality criteria. With materials and supplies, you can as well kind of raise the bar by improved inventory systems for materials. So checking actually that they arrive in time with 4 run times. We had examples there before, where you may want to check if they are up to the game that you are trying to employ them for. And send them back and get in time the new version. Yeah, so this is maybe something to consider. Then manpower or labor and supervision potentially. So project problems, time delays, excess costs, poor performance maybe are partly due to the human elements. So this is maybe down to action or inaction. I mean, this is extremely simplified. This goes of course a lot further. In using manpower as a tool for project control, PM encounters human emotions, anger, fear, or frustration. Particularly if you give people a plan, but then you change it consistently and make them work longer and harder. Yeah, this is when you're of course really kind of playing with the willingness of the people. Yeah. As I had emphasized earlier, we had kind of the resource related in the bubble versus the project related. And again, we can kind of break that down and how we can control that. So here is a resource related one with manpower related control, also referred to as human resource control. We had a little bit of this before. So traditional literature again says here layoff, fire any underperforming staff. So here this is quite harsh actually. So we had actually better mechanisms already in last week with the Airbus. But at that level, if you're just executing and you're working with teams, this is kind of the American spin. Better is normally plan, training, practicing, or actually as well have senior staff maybe assessing the performance. So there may be softer ways of going about it. identify, well, hire staff with needed skills, assign staff with specific skills to specific activities. It kind of sounds very intuitional, but this is often practically very difficult to do. Issues may be project manager may be seen as a stern disciplinarian, so there's a team dynamic as well, so recognize it. And project manager must avoid heavily handed actions, so don't start micromanaging people, this can really backfire. And fix problems without blaming people. So as a project manager, if you're dealing with people, you have to find a way as well in creating solutions to maybe conflict that maybe are somebody's fault, but if you can present it as something that is not so important and you stress like the collaboration or pushing on with a particular aspect, this can really be an enabling factor. Yeah? So avoid blaming people and say like, it was this contractor, how could he do this? This is what not to do. It's more like, I see we haven't arrived here quite at the quality, let's come together, can you help me with like fixing this? And then you have a more proactive discourse. Yeah? Not sure that they always come and help you then, but there's this element is certainly there. Yeah? Then we have the machinery related control. So also referred to as a physical asset control. So here you have decommissioning any underperforming equipment. If accuracies are not achievable anymore, then you may need tools that are more accurate. Yeah? So this is very implicit. Bring in equipment with appropriate capabilities. Reassign specific equipment to specific activities. So actually there are a lot of industries where you actually plan kind of assembly or production around certain machines because they are actually the biggest cost fabricator in your kind of overall cost. Yeah, so if you play with shopping centers, you will see the elevator stairs and elevators itself are actually very pricey. If you build like train stations like Crossrail, you will see the bore machines are actually kind of the determining factor for making the tunnels. Yeah, so and in a plane it's a turbine. So I could go on. This is in most industries you have factors like that. Yeah. Then you have money-related control as well. So here you, normally referred to as financial resource control. Here, how much money should be spent, how should it be spent, and here work, if you don't do it yourself, work together with your project accountant and your project finance manager. I've already indicated there's a lot of play in this. We are still, in project management literature, there's still a lot about project control as in cost control, which is often a very strange phenomenon because I see already here in my region in the Northeast that a lot of the project managers look as well around for alternative funding alternatives. And so if you're running over a budget, this is maybe due to stakeholder interaction, you may have a demonstration, then sometimes it's actually possible to kind of use that as a way for lobbying for more money. So there's as well a new emerging field. We don't yet talk about it. It's as well startups where you kind of have crowdfunding. You probably have heard already the mechanisms that exist. In the project management literature, not so much talked about yet. Which is a pity. This can go as well the other way around. So if you have a project finance manager, we had wonderful contract. This is again my old PepsiCo time, where we didn't pay 50% till the whole factory was running for 2 years. We wanted to have the guarantees, which is a killer for small businesses. So here you really want to have a very good relationships and make sure that your companies can actually survive something like that. But again, it was as well a higher price, so we paid probably more, not the best market price. Material-related control. So here is again discontinued use of substandard materials. Sometimes you have bought huge stocks if they're not up for the right product or service. Then make sure that you don't use them, right? But easier said than done. So of course there's dynamics of salesmanship and saving money that are again hidden here. Seek new sources of superior material if you can. So this is as well looking for better value. And this is where value engineering comes in as well. So sometimes superior material is actually cheaper. Yeah? So I know this doesn't look very intuitively, but in some cases this is actually the case, so it makes sense to work as well with people that can assess that. Yeah? Now we have as well the project-related options. So here you have trade-off, and I'm always very scared by what the literature suggests here. So you have here the options of reducing project size, reduce project scope, and potentially, last but not least, terminate the project. And this means stop, yeah, so not carry on with it. Hello. What are the mechanisms of project control and steering here? So traditional models go with mechanisms of cybernetic, go, no-go. This is probably the one that you're most commonly aware of, or post-control. Yeah, and again, I can explain them. So cyber means steer, which comes from the Greek language. I had it somewhere in the back of my mind, but it's to do as well with governing. Yeah? So you basically try to kind of hint towards potential dangers along the line, yeah, and kind of set priorities as well. So here we have as well different orders. So there may be a first order, second order, and third order, but I will explain it in the system, so which I still own you from the previous slides. So this is a typical cybernetic control mechanism. So it's actually a system design. So here were the inputs, then the outputs that we were talking about. And this is more something that we normally use as well for kind of control manuals for manual or mechanical controls. Yeah? But as a metaphor, this is actually quite strong. So here you may have a sensor, or here you may actually measure plant versus actual. And you have maybe a comparator, I can't say the word, comparator, so what you are comparing to, and then you have maybe set standards, what's desirable, what's not desirable. This is maybe from your planning. And then once you compare with the standards, you can see where you are. Here you have the effector or decision maker, so this may be a person, this may be a default mechanisms, right? You notice you are over budget, so maybe your accountant freezes the next paycheck, or something like that, so there may be already decision had. And then you basically come back to the inputs. Maybe you need more input. So this is the idea. So the mechanism system output monitored by sensor. Here the sensor measurements transmitting to the cooperator. Well, actually I talked you through this. But it's important to kind of see that it has to do with whatever the signal is. Is it too large, or is it too small, or is it in the right spectrum? That is basically what you are filtering for. So, so this is a first order cybernetic control where you have standards, right, and where it's actually straightforward. Do we have that? Well, in a thermostat, this is actually the logical game. So basically, you're looking for a set temperature, maybe 23 degrees. Then you can actually set it as a standard, and as soon as the temperature doesn't hit 23 degrees, if it's colder, heating goes on, something like that, and if it's warmer, maybe the fan goes on, or the cooling system goes on, yeah? Or aircon, as we may call it heroically. Yeah? Now, of course, this is not really with project management the case. So there are some standards where we are performing, and this is often then quality assured as well. But then we have kind of the problem of conscious memory or selection criteria, and you may work with a client, then this whole system design is actually a second or even third order cybernetic control. So here standards may vary according to the variable set of the rules, can be actually in projects even as standards vary with whoever comes to site. Yeah? So that is a very bad measure then, because here we are getting, but the idea guessing. So here the idea is same as described for the first order cybernetic system, but standards are not fixed. So so they are variables. So also the manner they change is variable because there is a consciousness human element involved. So you may think that a certain quality standard or product is very desirable, but you may notice it's actually not creating the value, and so you can remove it, right? So there's another element. Okay, I hope this with the system makes sense. So now we have to break it down. So cybernetic control and project management. Here you need, first of all, clearly defined outputs or deliverables and kind of success criteria that you're delivering. This can be it's kind of what we have done already. So in terms of relevant project characteristics, then the project manager must establish standards for each characteristic, or this may be defined with your client or with your stakeholders. Then you want to think about monitoring mechanisms, maybe sensors, maybe it's just a reporting point, or communication, or you actually go physically and check that the quality is achieved or that work has been done. So this must be established to measure the characteristic at regular intervals. Then for each characteristic, the trigger point or maximum deviation difference between attained level versus standard level should be established. So you should have as well an idea what the allowed threshold is. Actually, you did this in your talk, right, on costing. So you identified that the project is likely to stay within budget, but you need a threshold of 20% to kind of promise that you can deliver this. So this is a typical mechanism, particularly if you have evaluated your risk and you see that past projects are not performing to budget, and then you want to have that additional attaining level basically part of your definition. Then, if triggered, appropriate action should be taken to minimize the deviation between attained level and standard level of performance. Be careful, there are a lot of contracts that actually specify that. So I mentioned already the NEC, so if you do civil engineering or you're building at the moment power plants, it's a hobby of everyone, they have actually a lot of specifications, and sometimes it is as simple as a payment level not achieved, then you have to have a meeting to agree the new attainment level. So it can be a process like that, which is often quite dissatisfying if you have gone with a contract like that. And you think like, it's their subcontractor's fault, let's sit down, what is in the contract? Oh, we have to meet and agree new quality. Okay, this is not so good. But again, it's more collaboration focused, so there's a reason for that too. Now with the go or no-go mechanisms, it's a little bit more simple, and this is probably the most you probably have already come across those. So testing to see if some specific precondition has been achieved. So you basically make sure that the environment or parts actually achieves the quality to actually carry on. And once you have assessed this, then it's the next person's fault if that is messed up. So and then yes or no, this is a discrete answer. Has it been achieved? Then you have control. In most project management fall into this category. There are actually multiple people that have assessed that. So if you're testing for that, then you have a clear chain of holding somebody responsible to it. So you know basically where the mess up is, and then you can hold them accountable against it. So the example here that I had was activity X is completed within 6 months. Did activity Y cost exceed its budget of 1.5 million? So the idea is basically that if they promise that they have certain performance, if they have the right conditions, you basically test if they had the right conditions when they started, right? So, and this then allows it basically. So some engineering judgment is necessary in exercising these types of controls. So yeah, you basically need right parties to do that. Normally you wouldn't go for the same engineering company that actually does it, but you would have an external company that specializes on quality control like that, right? So you would normally go with a third party to basically say as well that you have assessed it independently of your judgment, right? Okay. Then you have the post-control types of project control, so also called post-performance control or post-performance review. Review it is if you're working with companies as well in the future, then it's a review process to actually increase performance, right? Allow them to develop and become better at what they're doing with you. So here it is done after the activity or the project is over, like a post-mortem or a report card. It is looking, well, the barn, this is a Yeah, this is a little bit like the metaphor. I should translate it. So first of all, the metaphor is here looking the barn door after the horse has escaped. Locking, not looking. So the idea is you're kind of doing a post-analysis, and this is actually very powerful for your risk analysis. But the idea is it's too late, right? The horse has gone, and now you're closing the door. Yeah, after the horse has gone and locking it, so of course it should have been locked before the horse went, right? So this is a recognition, but yeah, the other one is we need to learn from the past to avoid future mistakes. So this is kind of another way of looking at it. So generates lessons from current projects so that future projects can be controlled better. So this is where often used for the risk assessment actually. Yeah? Where activities went wrong and may flag them up as critical. Yeah. Now, desired characteristics for these control mechanisms can kind of be broken down. So that this is flexible. This is a project control should be able to react to changes in the system performance. Then it should be cost effective. So value of the project control should exceed cost of project control. So if your project control costs actually more, yeah, then the actual performance itself, then your project control is basically over the top. Yeah? This happens quite easily, yeah, by the way. So be sensitive to that. Usefulness must really satisfy the need of the project, not the whims of the project manager. So as a project manager, you may like to be in control, yeah, but maybe it doesn't really matter too much. Maybe your team member are actually expert teams that are coming together. Then a hand-off approach is maybe even more better and more an empowerment role as a project manager. Yeah? Then as well, timely, be able to react quickly before the problem overwhelms the project, and simple, easy to understand and operate, and adjustable, capable of being adjusted to reflect changing priorities. And last but not least, documented so that training is possible and lessons learned as well itself. Yeah, there is as well the with the flexibility the trade-offs. So some things to watch out for: impediments of project acceleration, cost only and time only actions to control projects. So in other words, sometimes you can actually play around with trade-offs. And in the literature, this is like a hot debated topic. The quick answer is there's very little agreement, but the whole spectrum is probably carried out on one project or the other one. So you have as well the flexibility. So this is value of flexibility in project planning. Flexibility is primarily a defense against risk, of course. Planning too tightly may highly complicate control. So basically, if you run it already as a production process, you know, you may have very little time to adjust any things because it's kind of cutting your productivity or pre-set up. Yeah. Flexibility in construction is key during the control, and you may want adequate float or contingency to change plans if needed. So this could be achieved with having actually a gate where you have a pre-performance and you actually put like a review stage in where you actually decide, have a decision point if you can carry on like it is. Yeah? Be careful as well on value engineering that limits flexibility. So particularly if you bring new parts on or you change the design to optimize, change of any use may have an impact on it or may actually make the product not durable enough or quality wise not acceptable. Trade-offs between performance measures during project control can sometimes only correct for one performance measure at the time. So basically, I go in the examples in a second. So if you run short on time, you can maybe with cost bring more teams in. This is again the example where you have to be careful to the activity that you're doing. Yeah, so I think the terrible joke was one woman can deliver one baby within a certain amount of time. Yeah, the question is in what time can 10 women deliver 10 babies? So the key joke here is have a look at the activity. Yeah, so some activities are time fixed, right? but not really time fixed. But there's a fluctuation. Yeah, I don't want to go here in the details. But the point is, so there are some indicators that cannot necessarily be accelerated if you put more people on it. Yeah? You need to understand as well the trade-offs and triage that comes potentially with it. So pick where to make trade-offs. So non-critical activities are normally a better place to do so. But this is statistically speaking. So again, be sensitive to your activities there. So here's an example to show you. This is our iron triangle with money, quality, and time in the system. So slow progress. You may throw this maybe delayed occupation, higher interest on loan or costs, loss of tenants, opportunity costs. So this is kind of how it could come about. With this, you can accelerate maybe by throwing money at it with overtime, shift work, rework, higher end equipment, or better crews. So this is normally how the literature identifies it. So if you are kind of going for lower quality, need for rework imposes high expenses. High quality needs can lead to costly miscalculations on labor time. So if you're thinking that high quality fabrication takes the same like the standard one, there's often a mistake in that. Or trying to save money maybe can lead to substitutions, lower quality, lower workmanship, or actually kind of training on the job, which is sometimes quite horrifying, depending on your job. Then less money available, so lower progress, resource reduction, selection of poor quality workers, default of contractor or subs, and they may go bankrupt, right? So you may actually throw your supply chain with it, or your subcontractors. And then quality level impacts speed of work, level of rework may be something that you can use. So if time is not critical, you can just ask them like to keep working on the job if this is like the contract that they have agreed on. But again, the motivation normally on a human side goes as well down with it. Now, if you have so this one here, the quality problems result from overtime, shift work, new hires, or purely fatigue. If you have run your team for a very long time at a very high performance level, it will go. So just be aware of that. And it impacts, of course, on the of the quality. Yeah. Okay. Oh, my slides have gone bonkers. Okay. So the trade-offs that you normally have with time, quality, and money triangle. In many cases, the best we can do is to pick the areas where trade-offs do the least harm. So again, trade-off by its definition don't generate the value or benefits that you were after. So check out for that as well. Sometimes you may want to go back to the client and negotiate on the very notion. So move resources from non-critical activities. This is again what the literature says. In the past, I've seen that, and it has still gone. It had still a bad knock-on effect. Accelerate only critical activities with more cost or desired outcomes, and sacrifice quality on non-critical items that can be remedied after substantial completion. So sometimes those are as well things that have been planned in as maintenance. So I've seen that as well, where they kind of completed the project and then bought from the maintenance budget another kind of at this stage in the power station, it was the trafo that they bought from the initial submission. So, but the point is, sometimes you can play around with it, but this depends really on how tightly it has been planned. So, arguably, the plan had the leverage then. Some things to watch out for. So, overreacting and improvisation, maybe some. So, when trying to correct, often bump up against other limiting factors. So space constraints, hiring time, morale, coordination difficulties. So those are often hidden underlinings once you ask for too many favors as well. Then improvisation dangers, working with or without planning here, often can lead to snowballing, increased problems at a rapidly accelerated rate. Often as well confusion, discoordination. and cascading basically to unanticipated effects, suboptimal work efficiency and lack of morale, and last but not least, breaking job rhythm and learning curves can really inhibit the productivity. So if you basically ask the guys to work kind of a night shift and then you expect them to kind of rock up on the next morning again, this will have a knock-on effect, right? So yeah. Project crashing is another one that kind of comes together. So this was time schedule, adding new project resources or changing the production function. For example, change the technology can have a huge impact. Then change operation conditions by altering the precedence, sequence, or timing of work. Fast-tracked activity overlapping. So those are often games that you can play quite easily. Overtime, maybe shift work is another way. Changes in the tools, methods, and operation conditions. So work in a more sheltered location is a not very difficult one. So those are a few. Then we have as well impediments to a project acceleration. So here you have human resources, so multiple shift work, environmental and safety issues, high cost, maybe neighborhood objections, and then as well with overtime and extended work days, you have fatigue, lower morale, rework, we had that already, and as well increasing of workers. So maybe has training as a consequence. Often this takes as well people that are operationally very capable away. So often you have the experienced people that kind of are the champion or mentor for trainees, and this has of course a knock-on effect as well on their availability. And again, you may hit as well space constraints or hiring time to actually find the right team members. Now, if still took the technology part, so using more or larger or more efficient equipment. So here you have training and learning curve, so procurement time and space constraints again, and using faster installing materials, so maybe procurement, submittals for owner approval. So there again, additional notions that come into it. And alternative construction methods, this is already very specific here to production. So here you should consider skill set, learning curve, unknown side effects maybe of using new tools as well or equipment, right? Okay, time only or cost only control actions. So sometimes reduce time without increasing cost. So here change operating methods and process to increase work efficiency and product quality, or potentially outsourcing. Again, this is easier written, so often with outsourcing you don't necessarily find better quality, but sometimes you do. So sometimes as well reduce cost without increasing time. Again, the outsourcing and subsidied with less expensive but acceptable materials or equipment maybe. Yeah. But here you often need already engineering or specialist input. Yeah. Okay, this was quite a run, 1.5 hours. Do you want a very quick run through the handout and then we take a break for half an hour? Or do you want rather now 10 minutes break? Push on, 10 minutes, yeah? Okay. Okay, handover closeout. I will just really, it links into the control part as well. So the roots for a poor closeout kind of come often from not at handover or embedded before, or good closeout will not save a failing project. Yeah, so there is a notion here. So if you're not proud of your work, think of yourself, you're probably not too keen to present it to the client. Yeah? So there's a psychological notion as well. So there's as well the kind of psychology that comes along with it. So normally there's a focus on like, it's over, let's move on. Yeah, so you may have experiences already with assignments or in university in general. So what are actually the 7 elements of a good closeout? And this is just one theorem, but here are kind of the key elements. We have the harvesting the benefits twice. Okay, this will probably make sense in a second in the slides. So first of all, finishing the work, handing over the product, gaining acceptance for the product, and then harvesting the benefits. And I think learn the lessons was the other one, but I will see that in a second. So, and underlining this as well, putting it all to bed. This is a terminology that was used by Harvey Miller, and then you have as well the disabandoning the team aspect. Yeah. So let's have a look. So the hidden complexity of the closeout management is really kind of two sets. So here you have the project being closed out. So project or stage comes to a closeout activity. So then you have kind of the customer and sponsor interface, right, where you're actually handing over the product, what you have worked on. Yeah, and this is maybe executives or project sponsors potentially, yeah, that are interested in the quality, what is our output. Yeah, and then you have on the other side the closeout activity that has actually to do with the project team. Yeah, and here you have the project managers and team members. Now, from the closeout activities, you should arrive at something where you have the lessons learned. So this is for both. So the team dynamic as well as the product dynamic, what worked well, what processes were obsolete, and how did it go in a way. Yeah. Then here on the bottom side you have the members of other live projects that could already learn from it. Yeah, and on the top you have kind of executives and managers or sponsors, maybe as well readjusting their expectations or learning how they could be a better client or a better sponsor, right? And then you kind of have startup activities. Now you notice here the linearity, yeah? So this is a very ideal scenario. You have as well then the project being started again, and hopefully members of the other live projects or new team kind of starting with it. And they are all being informed of the lessons learned. But this is, of course, a linear narrative, whilst this is not always the case. Yeah? So, yeah, it's not effective, this linear view, because people concentrate on two issues, money and physical sign-off. So some things get put aside for later. We could as well heroically, if you're kind of cynical about it, you could say it's the same a little bit in the assignment, right? So in an assignment, it's not so much the money, but it's a submission date when you put the physical piece in and the mark. Yeah. So this is a cynical view. In reality, you're of course interested in the learning, the feedback, right? So this is the other side of it. Yeah, but basically, if you put those the other elements aside, then you are basically missing here the key point. Yeah? So the sign-off pressure produces discord with the project team doing as little as possible, as long as they get the signature and eventually a reluctant client signing. So again, this is kind of Mailer's idea of the worst-case scenario. Then as well, time pressure, mainly because it was not planned properly, and/or the project team are thinking about the next project. Yeah.
There are nice cultural differences about Japan, that they plan already in Japan and they start in Europe just with the signing. Mm-hmm. And when they actually sign the contract, and the company in Japan is that far advanced that they want to implement it tomorrow, but the other team doesn't start. So you see the cultural difference there in this. Louis wrote about it.
So in Harvey's chapter, you mean?
No, Louis wrote about cultural differences.
Okay.
That's quite interesting to read, because if they get a decision in Japan, because it's very relationship based, and they want to introduce it tomorrow because they think we work on the project since the beginning, but we don't.
Yeah. Okay, so a very good example. So if you're looking at what was it? Do you know what he wrote about?
Louis writes about cultural differences. He has the triangle.
Yeah, but what was the example?
Just experience with Japanese mentality was the.
Okay, so no product or so.
It was not product related, but he lived as well there 2 years in Japan, and so he just said that's quite troublesome.
Yeah. So in other words, once you have established a good relationship, and you have the sign-off, you have in some cultures, the kind of mentality that you then start planning and then you start working on the project. Whilst on the other side, some cultures have already worked and wait for the signature and are ready to implement their product or service. Okay, so this is one mentality. So it's very good. So to just go back through it though. You with actually you have a point. There's a strong cultural element in this. Time pressure maybe being as well another one. So mainly because it was not planned properly, and or the project team are thinking about the next project. So this may just be like a consequence. Yeah? Or records are boring, so low priority, sometimes never get properly completed. So here we are thinking again of our control system as well. Yeah? So if you have reporting going that needs to be filled out on a monthly basis, yeah? Is this really priority for the team members? Do they know why they're doing this? And another one was lessons are listed and filled, but no one learns anything. So this is when you have a standard protocol for filling in your lessons learned. Yeah? So if you have not a functional approach of linking actually the lessons learned back to the next project that your team is learning, then you're missing the point. Yeah? And then some people are more concerned with the correct external picture of the project being seen than the real learning of it. So it was a little bit what we had at the beginning. How is it going? If you say, like, yeah, it's super, best project, all completed in time and budget, then you may actually not be open to learning and kind of recognizing, oh, okay, we fell behind time, but why was that actually? Yeah, this is when you're starting an honest conversation, and that is when you are ready to learn. So again, there's an issue as well with salesmanship that may actually get in the way in this particular point. Yeah. So why is that actually? So pressure of work distracts from basic tasks like records. So my colleague used to call it head down and butt up. So it's a recognition that once you are working actually on your particular task or a production element, or you're doing your design, it's actually very difficult to kind of step away and kind of reflect on it. And you may ask yourself, why is it difficult? Well, it is. You have to break your habits, and kind of what you perceive makes actually your progress worthwhile, right? So this is actually an extra activity. It costs as well money to do it properly if you do not. So it may save you money in the short term if you don't do it. So, but you lose, of course, in the long term if you're kind of missing out of it. So some believe as well that learning is personal, not organizational. So it shows you again the culture. Yeah, and actually saying so, I had myself 2 MSCs where we looked at knowledge management in German companies, and we could see that the project managers weren't actually mature enough to kind of admit that there were mistakes and where they had to learn. So even kind of the young project managers that came into that work environment were actually often confronted like, oh, you don't know how to do this? I thought you studied project management. Yeah? So there was a very uncollaborative level, and they perceived that to be like a personal responsibility, yeah? Which is a crazy idea, yeah? Because the context and environment basically makes it a joint learning experience, even if you don't want to learn in a joint learning community. Yeah? A good closeout is as well not publicly rewarded, so often this is just well, that is what you should do anyway. This is an important recognition. It can strengthen client relationships, and if you work with marketing, it can make a difference in the impression of the product. Yeah? The other issue is most project managers are quite task-oriented. They look for action rather than reflection. At the end, they want the next challenge rather than like go in themselves and contemplate. And people and organizations do not pay enough attention to the unique difficulties of creating organizational learning in the project environment where circumstances guarantee that every experience contains unique elements. So there's as well fatigue. If you have extreme inconsistencies, what do you want to actually report? It will be like a beautiful book of narratives, but where's the learning effect? So how to get better at closeouts? Well, so there are 2 key activities that kind of come from the literature. So one is really task-centric completion of the project and its handover. So this is as well an idea of handing actually over kind of the packages as you're going along. Yeah. And the second one that is very strong is the knowledge management. So here you have the individual and organizational learning throughout the project as well as after it. So encouraging maybe for project managers, if you have a project management team, consider a community of practice where you kind of share what worked, what didn't work. Maybe even engage in more formal mechanisms like conferences or maybe even joining professional networks, right? So external mechanisms. Then learning involves as well transferring knowledge, not just information. So we had that already in a separate lecture. So it needs to contact between people and an atmosphere of mutual interest and trust. And for this, you need to create internal and external communities of practice. Actually, I just said that. Yeah. So in a way, this is a strong element of it. Okay. Any questions? Answers? Okay. It was quite a basic run through control. We have a little bit a look in the seminars at it. If you're interested in control, it's a whole area that some of you, if you do the new framework, will actually have with me in a lot of detail next semester. Yeah, so we look at it in project organization and information systems, and there we talk about the intricacies. Yeah, but for if you are going for the engineering management, you will actually have a look in the data management, a little bit more focus on the technical side as well. Yeah, and a little bit at control as well. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Okay, let's have a look at this as well in the seminar. In the seminar, we have a little bit more practical look at what these concepts actually mean when we apply them. Yeah.